with Swedish ambassador Urban Sjostrom. He's already in studio. Ambassador, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm fine. I'm very pleased to be here.
Great. Is that the right way to pronounce your name? Sjostrom or Sjostrom?
It's in Swedish. In
Uh,
Swedish, you say Urban Sjöström.
ah,
It's very difficult.
Sjostrom.
So urban, like in city, urban,
Yeah,
and then Sjostrom is fine. Sjostrom.
Sjostrom.
Yeah, and the meaning of my surname is the current of the lake.
Ah,
Yes.
the current.
The current of the lake. Yes.
Like when the lake is
Yeah, when you
is
when you have a
strong.
current in the lake and leading to a river, so that's that's the meaning.
You
of my
add a
name.
current in the
Yeah,
lake.
exactly.
But how are you? How has it been for you in Liberia? I know you are ambassador for not just Liberia but Sierra Leone as
Yeah,
well.
true, true. No, so I need to say that for me, being the Swedish ambassador to Liberia and Sierra Leone, but let's focus on Liberia. It is a privilege, and it's been a privilege. I've been now in Liberia for 2.5 years, and
Mm.
Sweden and Liberia have very strong relations. I think many people remember Lamco times. It was the Swedish investment during the 60s,
Mm.
a very big investment and a very, very strong history with many Swedes working in Liberia, but also missionary work in Lofa.
Yep.
And then we have the Swedish engagement during the Civil War through UNMIL, and now we have a broad development cooperation framework, and it's really rewarding to have this partnership with Liberia and also on global stage. So
Mhm.
it's really rewarding. I like it a lot.
And talking about the global stage, I'm fond of global news events.
Mm.
So Hungary has approved you joining the military alliance NATO. That was yesterday. But anyway, talking about the partnership with Liberia, does it change? Does it change based on the current day reality, the government of the day? Do you change your priorities according to the government's priorities of the day and all those kind of things? How does it work?
Yes, and the thing is that as an embassy you have almost two governments to refer to. So first of all, we have the Swedish government,
Hmm.
and they give us directions and they give us priorities and so on, and we need to follow those.
Yeah.
Then we also have the new government in Liberia, where we need to align. And now it's a very exciting time when we meet with the new ministers and we exchange views and they present their visions and it's really rewarding and that is it's very much true that we are here to align with Liberian priorities.
Yep.
Um, what we emphasize, however, is that it's Liberia, and the primary representative of Liberia is the government. But
Yep.
it's also broader. You have civil society, you have church, you have mosques, you have unions, you
Mhm.
have women groups, youth groups, and we need to listen to the broad society in Liberia, and we want to follow initiatives
Yeah.
and support those. But it's very, very important, as you say, that we don't come with our own ideas. We listen and
Mhm.
we support Liberian owned and led processes. And
Yeah.
that's why it's so exciting now with the new government in place.
Yeah.
We have the 100 days and we have then longer term
Mhm.
strategy to be developed.
Have you met the new president?
Yes, I met him already in December.
Okay.
Uh,
December, that was very close
yes,
after the elections.
yeah, so we were very fortunate, and Sweden is part of the EU.
Yeah.
We will soon, hopefully, be part of the NATO, as
Yeah.
you mentioned.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah, we are waiting for some final procedural steps.
Yeah.
But so we and in Liberia you have the EU delegation representing the whole EU,
Mhm.
but you also have member states. You have Sweden, France, Germany, and Ireland.
Yeah.
And we work together as much as we can, and we had a joint meeting with His Excellency President Boakai, and it was a very rewarding meeting. He had also some of his closest staff, and if I may say, It was very rewarding for me to meet him also, to have a bilateral chat.
Was that the first time, having a chat with him?
Yes, it was. I met him, but it was the first time, and he told me actually, you need to go to Lofa, to Vonyema, to see both. We have a vocational training school in the Vonyema Multilateral High School,
Yeah.
which we have refurbished, and which is actually in excellent standard as a vocational training, but also to see the Swedish missionaries that was there from 1920 onwards. And it was so rewarding to see the Free Pentecostal Church of Liberia now taking over the Swedish missionary work, not only a church, but a small health station and school and a nursing school, and also a home for elderly. And he also mentioned Foya, where the Swedish missionary also. So it's so rewarding to see how our two small countries are connected.
You found the links.
Yes, exactly.
Several links.
So it's so exciting to see the links between Sweden and Liberia. So it is really a special relationship.
Yeah. So I know you've been, following his arrest agenda, agriculture, the rule of law, roads, tourism, sanitation, and all that. Does it excite you? I mean, just the composition of the agenda of the development plan of the government.
Yes, I need to say that what I hear is what he is presenting is the right things from my perspective, to invest in made in Liberia, such a rich country, Liberia, and invest in agriculture sector. With all the resources you have, but also to invest in social areas such as education and health. That is key. We know that for Liberia to prosper, children, both girls and boys, need to be educated. That is the future. That's the foundation. And also when he mentions to improve the investment climate in Liberia, I think that is also key, because Liberia deserves and needs investments to prosper.
Yeah.
And I think very much also boils down to governance, that he says the right things on rule of law and democratic governance. Because as a guest to the country, I'm amazed by, well, first of all, I'm amazed by the elections last year. EU sent a big observation mission, and they write reports, and they write very critical reports. And they told me, when we came to Liberia, it's one of the best reports, and the most positive report we've written. So Liberia did very well when conducting the election, but also the peaceful transfer of power. So it's really, really rewarding. But Liberia has so much, but and that also comes to the governance, that you have so much institutions, structures, and so on. It's the implementation of these policies. And then when he says that he wants to combat corruption, I think that is also the message we want to hear. So I'm very excited to go into depth with the ministers to learn. How will you do? Because what is something, but how will you do this? That is very interesting. And then we hope to align together with other development partners to support Liberia in this journey.
Yeah, I know Sweden for sure invest in other areas, climate change, human rights, the like you said, governance, and all this. From Swedish or Sweden's perspective, reading the government of the day's development agenda priorities, what is it that you've brought to the table to align and have a synergy?
So there are several things. We have a broad development portfolio, as you say, everything from human rights to roads and to agriculture. So I would maybe give you some examples rather than. So for example, when it comes to agriculture, we are quite eager to see new waves of and more efficient ways of agriculture methods and businesses, but also environmental friendly.
Mm.
You know, the slash and burn method that is used in some areas where you, which is very damaging to the forest and the biodiversity and so on. What kind of alternatives could there be? So there we are investing in finding new ways that are more effective in agriculture. When it comes to inclusive economic growth, we are supporting, for example, the vocational training school in Bonyema to have a vocational training, so you can do the different electrician or plumber or but also computer and also carpentry and also farming. But we also quite keen to work with Liberia on value change, and that means that if you grow a cocoa bean, to have a chain where the farmer gets the best paid, but also that the chain is useful and that Liberia gains from the product. And there are some challenges where we need to open up the market. We need to have the right regulations. Liberia could become an eco-friendly cocoa spot, and therefore have a more premium cocoa and get more paid. So that's also one example where we are. But if I may just mention two more, roads, we know that is key.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, and Sweden has a very long been supporting something we call feeder roads. We don't do the big roads, but we do the smaller roads to the bigger roads. Now
is it in the urban or
rural? Rural. Okay. But now we're taking it one step further. So this time around. So
under this new arrangement.
Yes, we've started, but I will actually I met with the Minister of Public Works last week, and we will sit down now to agree on the next steps. So it's very rewarding, and that is to make the walking tracks to the villages furthest around, make walking tracks to motorcycle tracks. So you can take a motorcycle all the way, and you can transport
instead of footpath.
Yeah. So you can take the motorcycle.
Motorpath.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so rewarding to see, because that is community driven and the impact, because then you can deliver your goods, but also when it comes to health, giving birth, there is something you need to go to hospital. Instead of taking 1 or 2 days, it takes you 3 hours by motorcycle. So it's really an improvement for the villages furthest in the rural sides. And it's so rewarding to see how cost efficient it is. And then my last example would be, for example, decentralization. We have worked very closely with the former Minister of Interior. Now we want to continue the work on making opportunities to implement the Decentralization Act, not least the revenue cost sharing, where Liberia can be more decentralized, and the different counties and we could then prosper more by taking their own revenue. And there is a cost sharing between the counties and the center. And that we believe that could really be something that could bring development.
To some extent, the decentralization policy has been implemented because there was this setting up of county service centers. I mean, it's another thing to talk about how effective those centers have been, and if they're equipped. Will you be concerned with this government about getting the functional, first of all, but setting up the necessary equipment, let's say to produce marriage certificates, because all these services will raise revenue and increase the revenue envelope of the country. So what role can Sweden play?
Well, as I said, we are here to support the government of Liberia and the institutions working with this, such as LRA. And we believe that it's useful to bring services closer to people. And we understand there's a need of equipment, but there needs to be resources available and revenue taken locally. to have it sustained, because otherwise you buy a computer, it will work for 1 or 2 years, and then it's out.
Yeah.
But if you have resources to maintain it or buy a new computer when it's broken, then it's sustainable. So we believe that this Revenue Sharing Act, which is already approved,
Okay.
if that is implemented, that is a huge step forward. And
Okay, but that means certain percentage of what is raised there
yeah.
stay there.
Yeah. So, for example, in Grand-Bassa, I've been there. There is a pilot where LRA is now taking property tax, which is supposed to stay a certain percentage needs to stay in Grand-Bassa, and one percentage needs to go back to the government.
Yeah, to national government.
Yeah, and it's really a win-win opportunity. And then people say, why should I pay tax on my property? Well, it's because that then the county service center will be operational. You will see the services that you need locally. So by paying property tax, you will see a county service center working and so on. So hopefully it's a win-win. You pay tax and then you see the services, not only in Monrovia, but throughout the country. And I need to say that I was very encouraged when I saw the pilot that LRA is conducting in Grand-Bassa. So hopefully there are opportunities. And for me, as I said before, so much is in place in Liberia. There you have great minds, you have policies, they need to be implemented. And the decentralization is something that we have a very decentralized approach in Sweden. And we have very positive experiences of this, because democracy is very much, if I vote for you, you want to see what is delivered. And it's not supposed to be personalized, that you give me as a person. It's as a society,
as required.
Yes, as required. So those are some examples. But then, if I may say, what maybe Sweden is known about is also our gender equality approach. In Sweden was a very poor country 150 years ago. But then there were many things happening. And one of the things was that both men and women started to work, and that. And we have really invested in to make Sweden as gender equal as possible. It's not equal now, but we have invested, and we've seen that this is really a key for development. That you use not only half of the population, but the full population for productive work, and giving both women and men and girls and boys the same opportunities. That is really key.
What is the sense? The sense that you've gotten from the government? I know the government is still in that formation stage, and it's still being formed, but it's working. It's running. I mean, the time is not waiting for it. Do you see the government stepping up to being practical to some of its development plans? Do you see that sense of practicality, seriousness, and getting the job done? What is your own assessment so far?
Yes, and as I say, I think my own assessment is that His Excellency the President, but also the government, they are saying the right things. They're coming with the right attitude. They're coming with a vision which is strong and impressive to some extent. We are within almost the middle of the 100 days. And I can see that they are working and they engage with the right stakeholders. So I say that, yes, I do see the right commitment. And I also hear from colleagues, and when I listen around, that there is a positive
feedback.
Yes, exactly. But I think we all, and not least the government, they are aware that the 100 days it's almost like a honeymoon.
Yeah.
And people will need to see true delivery, practical things. And I think we are just in the middle of this one, that they are now forming their team, their visions, and reaching from vision to practical implementation. I think we are just there now. So it is really now for the government to sit down and not only implement the 100 days deliveries, but for us as development partners, we are here for longer than 100 days. It's a longer term strategy that is important, where the government needs to identify the key reforms, the key areas where they really need to open up or change for stronger development. So we are still not in that discussion, but I'm looking forward to that
Yeah.
discussion. And
I mean, I've been in a room with some development partners, read the lips of some. First and foremost, you development partners look for integrity, because you don't invest where you don't trust. Because having if the government has integrity, you will invest with your whole heart. Uh, I mean, I know Sweden, you honor the EU, but you doing your own stuff. What is that priority for you, the get go for Sweden as a nation, for Liberia as a development partner?
well, for us, I think a get-go is to see the government coming together with a joint, not only 100 days implementation, but a joint strategy for a prosperous Liberia, and that this strategy should be something that they develop not by themselves but in an inclusive process. So you get the input from different stakeholders. It could be business alliance, it could be civil society, churches, youth, and from women and men, and but not only a strategy which could be like a wish list, but saying that if we want Liberia to prosper, we need investments. Therefore, we need full implementation of the rule of law. We need a follow through on the combat against corruption. We need investment in social sectors. So we see this is the path where Liberia is moving. And I would say that Liberia has an opportunity now, because when I report back to Stockholm in Sweden and I say Liberia has just conducted a well-conducted election and peaceful transfer of power, it gives hope that, wow, Liberia.
Okay. Then peaceful, then it gives that security sense.
But what we would like to see now is the government to really take it seriously on, because Liberia has won the peace. I need to congratulate you for that. It's impressive. You won the democracy. Now it's time for development and prosperity. And therefore, if the government takes this seriously, which will be a difficult journey, because you need to change things to really improve systems,
reform.
Yeah, exactly. That would be really rewarding, and I think many development partners would be eager to align with the government with this kind of strategy. But it needs to move from a wish list to a strategic approach. And it needs to be a whole of government approach, I think.
But you partners have a role to play there.
Yes, we definitely have a role to play, but we are there to support. It's the government who is in the lead. It's the civil society who can keep the government accountable, and therefore we are there to support and give advice. But it needs to be the government who is in the lead.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Does Sweden support the energy sector, electricity?
Yes. So,
and I know you've been reading the whole thing about power outage, electricity, Liberians. You on Facebook, so I know.
I am.
I know. So you read some of these comments about how LEC goes off, take hours to come back. The whole thing about the LEC and all that. What is your reading, and what you think? What is Sweden doing?
Well, first of all, my reading is that I've been in the 2.5 years, and I feel fortunate, because I believe that I've seen a shift. When I came, so many of the big entities in Monrovia, they were on generators 24/7 throughout. But the last year or years, I've seen a shift where the big compounds have shifted to LEC. And that is a huge improvement, because then you get the big customers and they can pay into the LEC. But then, of course, I also experienced the power cuts and so on. And I've been to Mount Coffee hydro plant. I'm a bit proud, because some of the technical equipment is from Sweden, because we have a lot of hydro in Sweden. Um, um, so I see that it's actually a leap, but it's not enough. It's really it's full of challenges, and I also read about
So
those.
so it's a
LS
blessing and curse.
Yes, but
because
yes,
because
it's true.
because the more customers you get now, the big
Exactly.
companies
Yeah,
rely
yeah,
on LEC
yeah,
now.
yeah,
The shedding,
yeah,
the work, the load is causing,
yeah,
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 the
yeah,
outages. But
yeah.
is there a way to make electricity provision sustainable, effective?
Absolutely, and Liberia has a fantastic opportunity. First of all, the power theft needs to be combated throughout, because that is unacceptable, and it's hampering services indeed. But we all know that the challenge for Mount Coffee hydro plant is it doesn't have a reservoir,
Hmm.
and that's why during the
Yeah,
dry season we
yeah.
are we are. And I know that LSE, together with the World Bank and others, they are planning for a much broader reservoir system, which can increase the power, so Liberia can export electricity. And this is for free. Liberia is blessed by rain,
Hmm.
and we are following this process very closely, and we do see some great opportunities, and I would like to see Swedish companies being investing into this. So there are indeed opportunities. However, for this to be successful,
Hmm.
the LEC needs to be fully operational,
Hmm.
needs to be professional. As I said, the power theft needs to be combated, and the government needs to play its part by supporting LEC, by giving LSE the opportunities to develop even further. But it is a journey, and it is, as you say, somewhat of a blessing and curse, because the road can become quite bumpy. But we strongly believe in Liberia as a power nation. So it's really an opportunity. But what I want to say is that what we do then, we are engaged in the Mount Coffee hydro plant, but we also think that to be able to provide electricity and energy for all in Liberia, you need to think beyond the grid,
Yeah.
off grid.
Hmm.
So we have a number of off grid uh, initiatives where people can have solar panels, they can have batteries, they can rent batteries, and there we also see how useful it is when Liberians have the possibility to become entrepreneurs. So I visited, for example, a battery renting shop last year,
Hmm.
where you rent a battery which can then charge your phone and a lamp and so on for more than 24 hours, and you charge it for 50 liberty, and it's really a system where you can get energy where the grid will not reach. So I
Hmm.
think you need to use different options, um, and it's really, we know energy is needed for development.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
So competing priorities. I mean, if you look at, because if you look at Liberia, Liberia is does have potential, but the challenges are enormous as well. And so if you think this other sector like road is important enough, look at agriculture. If you think agriculture is important enough, look at LEC. But I know Sweden has been also just to shift a little bit, looking at FGM, the
Mm,
issue of FGM. I've
yeah,
seen you
yeah,
attend some of these
yeah,
FGM programs,
yeah,
especially the banning
yeah.
of FGM, the
Mm,
traditionally.
mm.
What is Sweden's concern with FGM in Liberia?
Well, for us, we believe as Liberia very strongly in human rights,
Hmm.
and human rights is both for girls and boys and women and men, and to cut into to cut the body of an individual is really to
Hmm.
violate the rights of that individual. Um, so that is our global
Hmm.
view. Then we know that there are actors in Sweden, actors in Liberia who also share the concern about FGM, and what we have seen is that with a dialogue with the traditional leaders,
Mm-hmm.
sharing a bit the same concern that cutting be part of the ceremony? Can't we have ceremony without the cutting? Because we see how brutal it is, and the consequences is that the person will suffer, and you also might have some who will not survive. So it's been very rewarding for me as an ambassador to follow the discussion between the Ministry of Gender, the Ministry of Interior, and the Traditional Council of Elders coming together, saying that how should we look at this? And for me, it's been a dialogue between the three, saying that we know that tradition is key in Liberia as well as Sweden. We are not supposed to change or have views, but to have a dialogue with the traditional leaders on their view. And it's been interesting to see that, yes, they also share this, that traditions are key, but to do the cutting is perceived as a violation of the right. And therefore, so we have really taken a step back, saying, okay, you have the discussion, we are here to support if you have, and therefore it's been so rewarding for me to join these ceremonies where I've seen the stakeholders engaging in not an easy discussion, a difficult one, but saying that we will continue our traditions, we will continue our ceremonies, because this is key for Liberia, this is our identity, but we will do it without the cutting. And for me, I'm a guest to this country. I cannot tell all the dynamics, but for me, it seems like a very, very respectful dialogue. Difficult but respectful, and that's why it's been so rewarding for Sweden to be part of this and support it. But we also understand it's a difficult journey, and there are many views, but we have really taken a step back and just followed the discussion between the ministries and the traditional council.
But I think talking about the traditional leaders, they've shown some level of commitment. I think the concern has been alternative livelihood, because this is something that they're used to.
Yes.
They use it as a source of income. So if you partners telling them, well, we want you to make an amendment to this practice, we should be funding, especially when it comes to the livelihood aspect. Let's do it this way. We will provide the support. But with the banning, and in some counties, especially highly practiced counties like Monserrato, Cape Mount, Bombing, and all these places, it's progress. You can see the willingness by the traditional leaders. So in terms of alternative livelihood, because they say that the human man's love familiar territory. This is what they've been doing for years. Their forefathers, the mothers. What can be done to end that aspect of the tradition?
So no, I think the dialogue is still there, and it's been very rewarding to see how the traditional council and traditional leaders together with ministries, but coming to your question about alternative livelihood, I think it's true, but it's also difficult to just change it, take something and change it to something else. So I think that is something that we will need to continue to have a dialogue on, and we need because I cannot invent, because I don't know the situation, but I can listen to the practitioners, I can listen to the traditional leaders, I can listen to the ministries and see how do they regard this. But I agree with you, it is difficult process when you stop with something that has been some sort of a profession for some, but hopefully there will be other opportunities, and if there are good ideas and proposals, we will be part of that discussion. But I think it's also a bit to simplify too much, say that you stop with the cutting and then you can do this. It's also there are different individuals and so on. So I
It's a
think
give and take.
it's a give and take, but also that maybe you have other experiences and knowledges rather than just doing the ceremony of cutting. So it's also an individual priority and choice. So I think it is a dialogue that needs to continue. And what we know for sure is that it's not a one thing off that you say that now we stop and you have a ceremony. You need to continue. You need to invest into the communities and into these leaders for this to continue and for the ceremonies without cutting to continue. So it is, we are there for the long run, and we will continue to have the dialogue with the new ministers and traditional leaders, and we'll see what the next steps will be.
Okay. Capacity building. I know Sweden is investing highly in capacity building with the scholarship, the Sweden international scholarship. So honor that. How many Liberians are actually benefiting, and how is that impactful?
It's very rewarding, I need to say, and I would also impactful. All in all, it's hard to say. The numbers are maybe not so high, but I know last year I think it was 11 going. This year's less. It's 4, and for the scholarship to Swedish universities, it's a master study, so you need to be on an advanced level, and it's a very tough competition. So I'm very proud that we have Liberians going to Swedish universities, and I would encourage all to apply. What I'm also happy about is that we have a very active and useful Swedish Liberian alumni, which we engage with as an embassy, and which I regard as my colleagues. We are ambassadors. We have both experienced Sweden and Liberia, and so it's very rewarding to hear about the culture shocks, coming to the cold Sweden and then coming back to Liberia, they are really a resource for the embassy to share the different views and experiences. But then Sweden also has technical courses, which is part of our development programming here. So, for example, we have a bilateral agreement with LRA and the Swedish Tax Authority.
Okay.
We have bilateral with the Liberian Land Authority. So they're also going there, and we also have in sexual and reproductive health and rights, and so there are different options. But we also, of course, invest in capacity building here, and we are now looking into possibility to support training of new staff, in the basic rule of law, and also how to become a civil servant. So. You're right, capacity building is key, and I mentioned the education earlier on. I think that is something that is really need to prioritize in Liberia, to have good education for all, and then also possibility to advance and so on.
Okay, let's take course. You're listening to the Super Morning Show this morning. My guest is the Swedish ambassador, Ambassador Urban Sjostrom. He's my guest this morning on the show. You can call us on 080-514-096, 080-514-096, or better still, 770-58-1886, 077-058-1886. Do you have concerns about Sweden Liberia partnership? You can call us on 080-514-096 or 077-058-1886. Let's hear from our first caller. Good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to Ambassador Sjostrom.
Yep.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Wilson. I'm calling you from Painesville, and listening to you very well. I think Liberia and Sweden have had a very long bilateral relationship. And I want to thank the Swedish government. Since the end of the war, Sweden has been very much involved in Liberia's post-conflict development in different sectors, including security and otherwise. I'm very much interested in Sweden's involvement with local civil society organizations, especially organizations that have to do with, you know, bilateral and multilateral relationships. You know, how does
in what area?
like right now, my interest has always been in international affairs. Liberia's involvement at the global level is there at the government level, but you know, like you have in other countries, strong local organizations that are involved in these activities, making sure Liberia's national interest is reflected in global affairs and global direction for you know, universal development.
Yeah.
Also impacts Liberia's development and all of that. So we have this organization that is coming online. So I wanted to see how we can harness any opportunity that the Swedish government may have for an organization of that sort in getting this started, and you know, and all of that.
Okay. Thank you. He will respond to that. Call us on 080-514 096 080-514 096, or better still 7705818886. I think is but let me hear from this scholar very shortly. Good morning.
Good morning. And let me say good morning to the ambassador in studio.
Yeah, what's your name?
I just want to appreciate the splendid presentation this morning. I've been following. My name is Emmanuel Embre. I serve as the HR Director at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Okay.
I think he spoke very well, and all we can do is to harness the bilateral relationship that we have. As a matter of fact, I'm one of the beneficiaries from a Swedish scholarship. You know, I went to the World Maritime University in Sweden, where I graduated with maritime law, master's in maritime law and policy. So I understand exactly what the ambassador is saying, except that my only concern is, at what point in time can Liberians safely say that we have the Swedish embassy issue visas to Liberian citizens? Because the cost of going to other countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, for the issue of visiting visas is so high, and there is no guarantee that our citizens, you know, will receive or will get the visa. And it is not just limited to the Swedish government alone. So many other governments, you know, that we have here, representation that we have here, they pose a lot of difficulty on the Liberian citizens. So that's a serious concern. I thought that the ambassador could actually look into place.
Thank you so much. I mean, that was a very good concern that I missed out on. Thank you. Call us. We can take a call or two and go back to Ambassador Sjostrom. Call us on 080-514-096. This caller, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, what's your name?
Good morning, is this Super Money Show?
Yes, sir. What's your name?
Well, I'm Joseph Freeman. I'm calling from Baptist Seminary, Carpentry Community.
Yeah, let's hear you. Yeah, let's hear you.
All right, good to have the ambassador in studio this morning. He spoke well. My concern has to do with the issues of the transgender that is in the West. He on the genital mutilations in Africa, which is another country. He spoke on it. But my issue I've been bringing to the transgender issue in the West. Is that not a human rights violation as well?
You say? What do you say?
It is not a human rights violation.
What? Oh, transgender. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Transgender.
Okay.
Is that not a human rights violation in the West? And if it is, then what is his country is doing about it?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We can take a call and go back to Ambassador. Call us on 0880514 096 0880514 096 7705818886 and be live on the Super Morning Show this morning. We can take a call and go back to Ambassador to address your concerns that you've presented so far. But anyway, if we don't have a coordinator ambassador, you can address the two major issues, I think. The issue of the visa issuance that people have to go to either Ghana or Nigeria to get a Swedish visa. But let's squeeze in this call. Very important. Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning. Hello?
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my concerns are to the shows.
But what's your name, first of all?
The people should come in the country so much so that the Liberian people can benefit out of this program.
What is the program you're talking about?
It is the education system in Liberia to show people government is doing intervene in Liberia.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ambassador. Yeah, you can just respond.
Thanks a lot, and thank you very much to the callers for the very good comments and questions, and I agree with many of the statements, not least the long relations between Sweden and Liberia. I think I start from the end. So transgender. Well, I mentioned several times that Sweden is very, very strong, and human rights are key in everything we do, and that's why it's again very rewarding work with Liberia, being very strong on human rights, and for from our perspective, it is a right to love whoever you are, and also when it comes to identity. So we believe it's important to highlight this, and therefore we engage with actors who wants to promote rights for all, and we are there. As I said, we are here to support, not to change. We are here to support, but we have some activity and programs with organizations promoting LGBTQI issues, which we believe is important for respecting human rights, but also being part of democracy. So I want to say that I agree with the caller. On visa, I need to say that I fully understand the caller, and here it's interesting to be an embassy, when an embassy cannot decide everything by itself. The embassy is part of a bigger system, and the visa restrictions and the visa procedures are decided in Europe, not by Sweden, but Europe. So yeah, it's called Schengen Agreement. So it's even broader than EU. So there are many countries involved, and if we want to improve things here in Liberia, which I need to say that I've been pushing for quite a bit, it's very, very difficult. And unfortunately...
Well, is there a particular reason why it is the way it is?
Yeah, because it is heavily regulated. It's also depending on resources, that you need to have resources done here in Liberia to handle the visa requests. And there are many agencies also involved. It's not only the Minister of Foreign Affairs, it's the Swedish Migration Board who actually decides that. And so when we have tried to push for more visa mandate here, we have not been successful as the embassy, to be a bit transparent. And that is because these restrictions and policies. And therefore, it is not up to me to make the change. I make the same proposals as the caller, saying that we have such strong correlations, we need to do, but there are so many requests and so many procedures, so it's impossible to and we really tried. So I'm very sorry to say that we have the visa we can only provide visa for official visits to Sweden, and that there are very few. And we've tried to take
is maybe going for training. You can provide it here
if we can. If you're going for an official training in Sweden, so for example the master students, they can get a visa here, but then they get an official invitation from the Swedish university, and we can do it. So I'm very sorry that we have the system we have, and I fully understand, but that is the reality. When it then comes to the civil society, I need to say that Sweden, as I mentioned, we regard the civil society as a cornerstone of a society. And in Sweden, the civil society has been key for the development of Sweden. So we therefore regard this as the civil society stakeholders as very important. We do provide support directly from the embassy to some, but mainly through the UN. And what I wanted to mention, because the caller mentioned that our involvement on the foreign service side, that Sweden is the chair of the United Nations Peace Building Commission country configuration for Liberia. And it's my colleague in New York who is there. And linked to that a bit, you have the Peace Building Fund, UN Peace Building Fund. And what I wanted to say is that for civil society actors, I would encourage them to keep contact with UN agencies, because UN agencies, they need also good civil society organization to implement their work. So that could be one way of doing it, but for sure, Sweden, we regard civil society as key.
Well, Ambassador, we have to end there, but I thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, he's Swedish Ambassador Urban Sjostrom. He's been my guest on the Super Morning Show this morning. My name is Vafli Kamara. Tomorrow, there's going to be a special interview. ELBC will be relaying a 2-hour interview with, I understand, the Presidential Press Secretary from OKFM. I hope to be part of that interview. And so 2 hours, 8 to 10, that interview will come on. It will be relayed on ELBC Radio.